Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're going to continue looking at decks for the World Championships, and Volcanion has got to be on top of a lot of people's lists because it is a very consistent performer and has been throughout the entire season. We've seen a very good performance at the North American International Championships with this deck, and really the impact of Burning Shadows isn't too huge for the deck, so there's only a few tweaks you need to make to the list in order to be tournament ready for Worlds. And a lot of people love going into World Championships with a consistent, powerful, fast performer, and Volcanion ticks all of those boxes. So let's jump into it. First of all, the basic concept behind Volcanion. It's a very simple deck actually. It tries to just pretty much race for 6 prizes. That is its only win condition. And normally, we try and set this up with early game power heaters on the non-EX Volcanion, and we are going to be taking single prizes on lower HP Pokemon. This is particularly the case because we are seeing more and more evolutions in the metagame. We are seeing especially Roltzes now, we are seeing Beldums, we're seeing Rowlets. There's lots of low HP Pokemon that we can mop up with power heater in the early turns, whilst at the same time powering up energies onto our benched bigger attackers, the big old hefty 3 attack costs of Turtonator and Volcanion EX himself. So you can be taking these single prizes quite nicely, or potentially with enough steam ups you can even be threatening 2-hit KOs for just 1 energy with Power Heater, and that is one of the big crutches of the deck really. Power Heater and Baby Volcanion, just such a powerful card. This is one of the main reasons why I think the deck is so strong. Then as we move into the mid to late game, we're looking to get 1-hit knockouts with our basic EX and GX Pokemon. With a little bit of support from enough steam ups, we can get into crazy numbers and pretty much knock out anything in our path, given that we draw well enough in order to find fire energies to steam up. We're also going to use the Starmie in here. It's a really nice sort of tech Pokemon that chills on the bench for you because its Space Beacon ability allows you to discard 1 from hand to get 2 fire energy back from the discard pile. This really does help end-proof you. We are a racing, aggressive deck, as I've already mentioned, so we will be end down to a low hand size. But having a Starmie on the board means that you can guarantee at the very least you can have manual attachments to keep attacking, or having that last couple of steam ups to get you over the final hurdle. And Starmie is going to be awesome for making sure that we can cash in on steam up as much as possible. So let's start off with a pre-Burning Shadows list. This is Ryan Sablehouse's quarter-finalist list, as you can see. And yeah, just a really, really strong baseline. I think a lot of people will be net decking Ryan's list, and for good reason. He got very far in the tournament, and it is a very nice build of Volcanion. A few comments I have to make is that at the time, we have to think that he was teching for a different metagame. This means that you see as few items as possible in his list right now. And that's really because of Trashalanche Garbodor. Have to be super, super careful about Trashalanche, and going to Worlds that will be the case, but I believe less so because Garbodor does inherently get a little bit weaker, gains a few awkward matchups for Worlds, namely the Gardevoir GX. So potentially we can see a few more items go back into the list that we didn't see previously. Additionally, Olympia is actually the card that I've highlighted. You can see this card is pretty much being removed, guaranteed, because of the new introduction of Guzma. You can see Ryan was playing 3 Lysander. They pretty much just become Guzmas immediately, and I'll talk about why in a moment. But that does free up the slot of Olympia, so if you're going to change one card, it should definitely be the Olympia. And to be honest, if you only change that one card, Ryan's list is still really strong. So if you want to be as conservative as possible, just cut the Olympia, change Lysanders for Guzmas, and then you gain a space, which is pretty cool for you. I'll also note that Fury Belts were used in Volcanion. It does help you tank against Espeon GX, because the more energy you put on yourself, the more damage the Espeon GX is able to do back to you. And in fact, with 3 energy on us, with a choice band on their Espeon, they can hit 180. And that is really awkward. And also Zoroark being able to copy Volcanic Heat, copy as well the Turtonator's attacks. It gets really awkward for you without the Fury Belts. And Zoroark was often known for not playing Field Blower, or sometimes playing 1. So Fury Belt was going to help you tank up in those situations. But metagame is shifting. There's potentially going to be a lot less Zoroark because of Guardy, and there's also potentially going to be less Espeon because of Guardy, and just because Acerola and Guzma really does ruin the whole confusion aspect that Espeon has going for it, and that's a big part of the deck, to be honest. So potentially Fury Belt less important, and I'll talk about that in my list in a moment. So these are the things to keep in mind, the things that I would be looking to change from Ryan's very successful shell of Volcanion. So let's have a look at the impact of Burning Shadows. We do gain a new potential attacker in the deck in Ho-Oh GX. It's a 190 HP fire type, just like Turtonator, and it has a 2 retreat cost, not too shabby. Everything in the deck is chunky anyway. And it has 3 attacks. You don't care about the GX attack at all. I don't think you will ever be in a spot to use it, but it's 2 other attacks for a fire DCE, although we don't play any DCE in here, so it's just going to be 3 fire energies. You can do a 50 snipe to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This can finish something off if you've not been able to get a one-hit KO, but that is rare with Volcanion at the end of the day. So the snipe potentially could be handy in some spaces, but really very rarely. But it's the second attack, Phoenix Burn, for 4, effectively 4 fire energy. The one colour doesn't matter because we only play fires in Volk decks. You deal 180, and this Pokemon can't use Phoenix Burn during your next turn. That can be mitigated by the likes of Guzma. You can just Guzma back out and move back into the Ho-Oh and use Phoenix Burn all over again. One of the most crucial things about this Ho-Oh GX, in fact, is that its weakness is to lightning. So potentially we'll be seeing Ho-Oh GX be thrown into the deck as an answer to Greninja. 190 HP is a good chunk, and when they can't hit for weakness, and the fact that Shadow Stitching means that you're still getting one-hit knockouts, it could be a really cool tech card for Greninja, which is definitely a bad matchup for you. So maybe we'll see Ho-Oh, Turtonator, and Volk EX all in the same deck. Potentially you cut Turtonator for Ho-Oh, but I personally am not a fan of that. I believe if you're ever going to play Ho-Oh, it will be a single copy just to help out your Greninja matchup. And even then, I don't know if it's enough to win you the game. We have to bear in mind that you have to attach 4 energy to it, so it's still a big commitment to a single Pokemon. And eventually it will go down. It's just whether or not you've taken out enough Greninja breaks in the process with this guy to see if it gets value. The other 2 cards we'll see is Guzma. Guzma is amazing for this deck. Like I was saying, you cut the Olympia now, which was a card you were never happy to play, but always had to, because Volcanion has actually a similar effect to Ho-Oh's Phoenix Burn. You do 130 damage with Volcanic Heat, and you can't use that attack during the next turn. Well, now, if you Guzma, you can move to the bench, and then if you have something with a Float Stone on it, or even just paying retreat out of another Pokemon, or just having a switch card, means you can instantly attack again. One of the best things is, because we Power Heater and attach to 2 different targets, sometimes it's going to be 2 Volcanion EXs, so we can go in with 1 Volcanic Heat, tank a hit, Guzma into our next one, and try and do the same thing without having to pay retreat on our Volcanion EXs, which, for anyone who's played Volk, as soon as you attach that Fury Belt or that Choice Band, you're instantly sad because it's very difficult for you to move out after you've got that big one-hit knockout with Volcanic Heat. Guzma really does fix that, so it is an amazing addition for this deck. And then finally, it's Kiawe. It's a card, again, that has mixed opinions. I'm actually not a fan of playing Kiawe in Volcanion. I think the deck has to be drastically changed in order to make this work properly. I think you need to go to like 3 Tapu Lele, playing like 3 or 4 Turtonator, and go down a Turtonator focus rather than a Power Heater early game focus. And I overall just think that deck is worse. I would much rather be cycling for cards, hitting Max Elixirs along the way to accelerate, because Power Heater is just so good, because not only are you getting acceleration, but you're also taking prizes. So I believe Kiawe is outclassed by non-EX Volcanion, but that's not to say that you can't play a single copy of him and get value in certain games. That could indeed be the case. So bear in mind, some people will be playing Kiawe for Worlds. I personally am not a fan, but I'm sure someone's found a way to make him work in fire decks like these. So let's have a look at an updated list of Volcanion. You can see I've highlighted a few things here, and you can see down below the few changes that I've made. You can see that I've flip-flopped the Volk and Volk EX counts. This is mainly because I want to make sure that I can steam up enough against Gardy GX. Gardevoir GX is going to be one of the most threatening decks for Worlds, so we really need to make sure that we can beat it. And in order to beat the deck, we need to be able to one-hit KO them. And normally it's not difficult for Volk to one-hit KO stuff, but the thing is, you're not only Using the ability of Volcanion, you're also attacking with it. So when Guardies are able to knock out your Volcanion EXs, sometimes you can run out of steam ups and eventually not win the game because you can't one-hit KO them in response. So with 4 Volk EXs and a Rescue Stretcher and 3 Choice Band now as well, instead of fighting Fury Belts, although we'll be going down quicker, we're going to be able to reach knockouts on them. And the idea is, although they can one-hit KO us, we've probably already taken early prizes with Baby Volcanion. So normally we take 2 prizes with Baby Volks, then we go Volk EX one-hit knockout, Turtonator GX one-hit knockout. That is pretty much our strategy, or vice versa. And typically it's okay against Guardi. They really can't do much about it unless they can deny non-EXs on the board like the entire game after turn 1. Or if you just happen to have really bad hands and can't get Baby Volk active and getting prizes. But that is very rare for you, so I've actually found it's okay against Guardi. I don't think it's your favourite matchup at all, but when you change the Fury Belts for Choice Bands and have as many Volk EXs as possible, you can steam up to get one-hit knockouts against Guardi, so bear this in mind. That is why we've made the change. Also, as you can see, I cut the Olympia and then changed Lysander for Guzma. I also cut one of the 4 N because we are such an aggressive deck. I feel N does become a dead card for you after turn 3 or 4, and I've just gone for a 4th Ultra Ball, mainly because I'm not really scared of Garbodor anymore, so I'm happy to go up to 4 Ultra Ball again. It again is one of these things where you have access to your Starmie that much quicker. You can access Volcanion, and of course, if you have a dead hand, it can also get you Tapu Lele. So Ultra Ball, you're never sad to see in the deck, so that's why I've gone back up to 4. And the slot that we gained from getting rid of Olympia has now become a 3rd Max Elixir. I feel like this is probably the best place to put it, to be honest. You could go back up to 4N and keep 2 Elixir, but I think you have to expect more mirror matches for Volk, and sometimes that extra Elixir is going to tip the balance a little bit. It's, pretty sad to say, and mirror matches are always really weird for Volcanion. It's normally just a slogfest, one after the other, taking prizes because of the weakness you have on each other. But that being said, the 3rd Max Elixir just means you have that next Volk ready to go, guaranteed a little bit more often. So, yeah, I think 3 Elixir is going to be cool, and just having more speed in the deck, having more attackers lined up, it's always fine to attach a 4th energy to Turtonator, so you can hope to attack with the double discard and then tank a hit and attack again just by attaching a 3rd energy the following turn. So 3 Elixir I think is absolutely fine for the deck, and it just makes it that little bit more aggressive again. We don't mind putting a couple more items into the deck because it's still overall a fairly low count, and we're also expecting less Garbodor overall at Worlds. So I think this is the way that I've found to continue to play Volk, and I've been having pretty good results with it early on. So yeah, just going back to more aggressive with Choice Bands. We don't have to worry about Zoroark or Espeon as much anymore, so I'm happy with the aggressive Choice Band route. Let's have a look at a couple other tech options. We do have the Oranguru. This has been splashed into a bunch of decks recently, and from my testing, I absolutely love this card. I want to weave him into as many things as possible, just because he is a great bench sitter for you that just end-proofs you once again. I think for this deck, we have Starmie to fill this role. So it's not essential to play Oranguru, but he could also put a shift in if you're really self-conscious about it. Fury Belt as well. You could try playing a split of belts and bands. If you're not happy with a 3rd Elixir, that's definitely the floating slot because it literally came in for the Olympia. So if you want to go for 2 belt, 2 band, that could work for you. Have the split however you'd like, but personally for me, I've found Choice Band to be great. And then there's also tech supporter options. Although we are playing Starmie, you may want to play Fisherman as well, because there are games when it's prized, and there are games when it gets knocked out. And against things like the Decidueye, weirdly enough, you can't ever develop the Starmie, because Staryu just has 40 HP. So sometimes you actually need Fisherman to recover some energy and make sure you can have enough attackers throughout the game. Weird that you have to worry about the Decidueye matchup, but especially if it's like Desi Tails or something, you want to make sure that you have enough energy to steam up over it. Then there's the Acerola, which is also one that I've not seen many people talk about in Volcanion, but I believe it's a very cute card. I think if you're playing Fury Belts, it makes a lot more sense to play Acerola because you're more likely to tank hits. That's why it's not in our 60, but it could be in other people's Volcanion lists because it's so great for you. Like I was saying, when you Guzma out of your attacker after using a Volcanic Heat, imagine the situation where Volk has a belt on, does a big old Volcanic Heat for a knockout, Tank's a hit because it's got 220 and it's most likely going to. Then you're able to steam up Acerola, picking up your Volk and then putting the 3 energy back into your hand. You move into your next Volk, you can re-bench the Volk you've just done, so you can actually get 2 steam ups off of 1 Volcanion, which again helps you ramp that a little bit higher to get into 1-hit KOs. So not only are you wiping prizes off the board, but you're getting 60 damage essentially from steam ups from the same Volcanion, which again is going to be really nice for you. So yeah, Acerola could be a really clutch one-of. And finally, Hex Maniac's one that you may actually have to start debating in your Volcanion deck. It does mean that sometimes you can tank hits against the Guardi. It means it could be great against the likes of Vikavolt, Tapu Bulu, which always have to use the discard in order to 1-hit in response. If you're able to weave in a Hex at any point, you're going to be the one in control of that game. And there's a few other there's a few other ability-focused decks out there. We'll look at the matchups in a moment that could also be affected by Hex. So even things like Mega Rayquaza would not appreciate it, and that could be enough tempo to gain to put you back in the lead. So potentially we'll see Hex Maniac in Volks. I would be surprised if that was the case, but I know there have been whispers of putting it in the list, so something to keep an eye on. So let's have a look at matchups for Volcanion. There's a lot of crosses in here. There's a lot of potential bad matchups, but you have to look at these really closely and see that Espeon, Garbodor, and Drampa Zoroark are probably on the downturn. I would be surprised if many Zoroarks at all turned up for Worlds. So it's a bad matchup on paper, but are you likely to see it? Probably not. Aquabox, again, it's not been too popular. It did make, I believe it was top 16 in the Liverpool Regionals, the most recent one, but we don't know how powerful it is for Worlds. And of course, Lapras's GX attack gets way worse because Acerola and Guzma gets around Paralysis so cleanly. So potentially Aquabox won't show up. Ninetales as well, we don't know how well it can stand up to Guardi. Obviously it has the same weakness as Gardevoir as well, so it gets caught in the crossfire when people are trying to play metal decks, so that becomes a riskier play. Marshadow Plume, that's something I'm toying around with, don't know if anyone else will be, so again, that's a matchup that I've written down on paper, but it may be one that you don't have to worry about. So overall, it looks like most of Volk's bad matchups aren't top tier. They're like tier 2 or 3 decks. So being able to compete with the top tier and only really being worried about random one-offs really can really get you through day 1 quite nicely with a good record, especially because you can take losses along the way. Greninja is probably the most high-profile bad matchup for you, and I'd be surprised if you faced more than 2 Greninja day 1 at Worlds. So for me, I think Volk is a pretty good day 1 play. I don't know if it'll be a deck that can go all the way at Worlds, but you know, we've seen its success with great players before, and when you have such a consistent shell with such potential high damage output, you can never go too wrong. So yeah, it does seem to be a pretty good deck. That's going to be it, guys. Quite a short video today, but it's going to be easy to talk about revamping lists. I hope you do still enjoy these slideshow videos. I enjoy making them, and they're quite easy to do, really. And basically PTCGO is out tomorrow, so this might be the last one, but if you guys have enough feedback and let me know if you like these over PTCGO, potentially I'll be doing these slideshow videos and then having separate battle videos on PTCGO. That's completely up to you guys. It just means we have more content going out on the channel as well, so potentially that's what we do in the future, because these slideshow videos have been getting a lot of good responses. So again, please leave a like to this video if you did. Get commenting down below. Do you think Volk is the play for Worlds? Is it a day 1 play? Is it a day 2 play? Can it go all the way? Who knows? Let me know down below. Discuss the list as well. Would you make any different changes? What do you think about Choice Band especially? That's a big decision, I believe. A big difference from Sablehouse's list, because Fury Belt was sort of ranted and raved about by him and how important it was in the deck. So it's interesting to see that I've gone away from it, but again, the format is changing and developing, and I believe bans are important for the upcoming metagame at Worlds. So, subscribe to the channel if you've not already, and it has been Joe from OmniPoke, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. Cheers.